Dun, dun, dun. Welcome to the last episode of the book study with Sarah Cantore.
Oh. Okay, yeah, you guys disappear when I thoughts on Miss Claire.
So in the other movie, you do see her in the movie, and so I always
Like real her?
no.
Oh.
Just the part that he really talks about in this book, you kind of see her come along and bring him the books, and so it was neat to read about her and then feel like I saw her when I saw the movie. I just really liked how she interacted. You know, she just seems like one of those people that just steps into people's lives at the right time in the right place.
Well, so I found this. So this is what
I grew up always on the bigger side as a kid. I was always.
Sorry, gotta wait for this. Skip. Okay. Can we hear it?
Yeah.
So this is the first time that they see each other.
I'm going to 452 Slocum Road.
Well, when I met Steve, I lived in New Bedford in the West End. He called me not too long ago, after 30 years. He says, I finally found you. I've been looking for you.
FYI, I cried the first time I saw this.
Great to see you. These are for you.
Oh, gee, thank you. What a day.
Yeah,
We have this happen every day.
I didn't think I was ever going to meet you. I mean, that was the one thing that I said, you know, it'd be too difficult to do. So it, completely surprised me. The book that I really loved was Watership Down, though. And I didn't know if you had brought that to me deliberately, but it mirrored actually what I was going through, and I knew that at the time. So, what the rabbits did in Watership Down was they fought back every single way that they could while they were still trying to find home. So I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. But I remember all the details.
So I would help anybody if I could.
Yeah. Well, where did that come from? I was always curious to know.
Parents or
Oh, were they? Now, where are your parents from? Wow. Wow. Did they immigrate here?
Yeah.
Okay.
We lived down in New Yorker.
So you're first generation in this country.
We're happy.
Amazing. Wow.
Same guy. Still my best friend. I work with him 24 hours a day together. We work together.
At that age, you were probably the closest thing to a mother. I remembered how you looked at me all the time. Every time I was reading the book, and you never said much, but I could see how proud you were.
Yeah.
I could see how proud you were, and I would always hold it up whatever I was reading, and that told me that my life meant something, that it was worth something, even though the people around me was telling me the exact opposite. Nobody cared about me, but whenever I would see the two of you walking through the neighborhood, and I just remember thinking to myself, well, she cares. She cares. And I knew you cared because of not what you said, but by what you did. And that gave me what I needed to fight, just one more day. Right at the point you came along, as strong-willed as I think I am, and as strong as I might think I am, I certainly look back and I was at my breaking point. Because as a child, you think nobody knows what's going on here. No one's helping you. No one's concerned your parents aren't here. So it wasn't just the books and the vision they gave me. It was just anybody doing something, like that, and how magical, that was. It just gives you a sense of the power of that kindness. I was in Indiana in 2006 it was, and I was telling this conference about you. So we're having dinner later on that night after the conference, and this judge says to his staff, he asked me, he goes, well, why are you here? And so I talked about the book's giving me a vision of a life beyond the one at that house. So he turns to his staff and he says, okay, well, we're going to do for kids in Indiana what Mrs. Levin did for you. So that was in 2006. And here now in 2012, it has resulted in donations of 750,000 books that are going to kids in the state of Indiana because I told that story about you stopping amazing. To give me books. No, if someone had asked me, and then people often do, would I travel this path all over again? And I absolutely would, because I wouldn't have Tanya, and I wouldn't have, and the same is true for you, right? Whatever sacrifices you made, you'd make them again, because look at what you have, and you've given me, and you continue to give me lessons of.
Well, I can see both of you are wonderful parents.
Yeah.
You got a good team.
Well, you were my first example of that.
Right,
you were my very first example. So.
Best day of my life.
She's everything I thought she was. Her humility and her modesty, and truly extraordinary people.
So when she said it was the best day of my life, oh, I just sat here and cried. And like one of my teachers walked in, she was like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Because I just thought it was so sweet because she just looks like one of those like gentle grandmas that just like takes you in and makes you feel safe. Okay, remember, I can't see you. Are you all still here?
We're all still here.
Like maybe they aren't here.
And Lynn's here now too.
I know, I saw that. Hi, Lynn. So let's talk about how did that video make you feel?
It's inspiring because I feel like it's what our life goals should be, is to help others and to help, whether they're small, whether they're teenagers, whatever the age is that we want to live our life in a way that it impacts others. And to, just like when she gave to him, she gave a part of her. And I think that anytime that you find that out, that part of you that you've imparted to others, that it actually made an impact and it had value, I think that in itself equals a life well lived.
I mean, it was just like a box of books, right? Like she probably could have, if she lived in that neighborhood, I'm sure she saw things she didn't like. And she probably could have made waves and, called authorities or anything. And I feel like she chose to make his life better by not causing more chaos, but giving him something to get him through. And I think, for me, I would have probably done the opposite. I would have jumped in and tried to play hero and called children's services and blah, blah, blah. And she just was like a quiet hero. And I admire that.
And he also, in the book, he made mention how a lot of people, their first memories are of their parents, grandparents, and etc., where he didn't really have those memories. But his fondest memory was of Claire. She reminds me a lot of my own grandmother. My grandmother was a first generation American. Her father and mother immigrated over here from England. And my grandmother fostered kids and to the point that she almost adopted one of the children that they had housed. But she also had that gentle heart, a very faith-based woman, and would do whatever to help someone in need. She was always, baking for other people, or just little things that, and never complained. But I've found out through this whole book, I have been able to relate somehow with each of those characters. And I'm sure probably most of us can relate to each of these stories in one way or another.
I agree with you, Michelle. I think in each chapter, it's made me think of somebody or some time in my life. And Claire reminds me, you mentioned your grandmother, first generation American, coming from England. My great aunt was the same boat, literally. She was the first child to be born here in the States after her family came from England. And she had a knack, and I aspire to it. I'm telling you guys, she had a knack of making each one of her children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, whoever it might be, myself included, feel like the most important person in the world when she was speaking to you. And the family joke is, we called her Ma. I was Ma's favorite. No, sir, I was Ma's favorite. No, I was Ma's favorite, because she made each person feel that genuinely. And hashtag goals. I just want to grow up to be like her. And Claire reminded me of that. And then, you mentioned too, Sarah, about being noticed. We actually use that expression here at the school all the time. Johnny, I noticed that you pushed your chair in, and that was helpful so that your friend didn't trip over the chair. I noticed that. You should see them. We didn't say good job, blah, blah, blah. We just simply say to them, I noticed that you blah, blah, blah. And they beam. Like they're so pleased with themselves to just be noticed for something. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree. I mean, you guys already skipped ahead because I wanted you to tell me your Claire story, and you both talked about your grandmas.
Would you like to be added?
But that's good. So my grandma is probably, she does not remind me of Claire. So I had like 2 grandmas. I always said, like, my dad's mom was the 8-course meal cooker, the let me babysit all the time, retired early, traveled. You would get the birthday cards that, my beautiful granddaughter, the gift from heaven. And then there's my mom's mom, who worked until she was like 85. If we went over for dinner at that grandma's, she ordered KFC, the whole meal, but KFC. And she was the one that like gave you a birthday card, said, woo, time to party. Like, so, but I got so much from both of them. Like, they were both so, from this grandma, I got the nurturing and the party throwing. She was the one that, my dad and all of his friends, and she was a single mom of 2 boys. So that was her house, was the go-to house that always had the good food and the homemade stuff. And, she was the party planner, people haver, go, go, go. And then my other grandma worked like a dog, like worked so hard. And just, they just showed me, they both showed me very positive, necessary walks of life. So I was blessed. I had 2 Claires, but 2 completely different Claires. So the Lighthouse effect, giving what you can, offer help to anyone you can. Not everyone has someone to turn to. That kind of stuck with me. You don't really think about that. You think, Well, everybody has somebody. Everybody has a friend or a coworker or a boss or, but then when you think like not everyone has someone to turn to, like I can say as I've gotten older, I would say my circle is the same size, but the circle of people that I confide in or really dive into life with, that's not as big as like my crew. Give your ear and just listen. And then the book, it said, sometimes it's more important to hear the things that aren't said than the things that are. You know, and that was Claire. He never went to her and said, wah, 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 blah, blah, blah. And she didn't like try to, like, she just saw that he was a kid that probably didn't have the best life, but he loved to read. And that's what she offered him. Books. Quietly showed up at the house. Here's a box of books. So, I try to do that. Like I try to observe more, than I guess talk, because I do feel like hearing how people talk about other people or other situations, to me, it's a good way to gain perspective on somebody's character. I have this page number here for the next Forgive Your Life experience because as I was reading it, I couldn't pick one thing out of it. I liked the whole paragraph. So I'm going to read to the class today. It's short though. As we move forward in our lives and successes come our way, our past experiences sometimes fade from our memories. It's hard to remember that we were once an uncertain freshman in high school, had a first nervous day on the job, or had anxiety when our first baby came home. The passage of time denies us the intensity of those moments when so much hung in the balance. Yet there are others in similar stages of their own life's journeys who need to know that we too had those feelings once. The pain of our past can be present day reality for someone else. Sharing our life experience, our testimony rather than our advice, can often help others navigate their own. I'm interested to see what that means to you guys. As an educator, as a director, I feel that I take this on a lot with my staff. You know, I am 46 years old and started this in this field in 1996, the year I graduated. Like I graduated in May and started at my first center in August. I worked at Kohl's department store and my one manager took her kids to a center and got me the interview. So that was a long time ago, long time ago. And, you know, I've obviously tripped more times than I'd like to admit, made more mistakes than I can remember, but I have grown and I have learned from those. So like when I get new staff come in and they want to, you know, if they make a mistake or they don't know how to do something, I always say, hey, I didn't start out like this. Like if you know, it's just one of those, like, this is, you know, of course I try to talk to my 13-year-old about life, but what do I know? So I go with the adults that tend to listen to me a little bit more. But, and my biggest life experience is what I've done for most of my life has been, you know, being a director or working in the early childhood education field. And so that's where I feel like I have most to offer. But what did you guys think of that for Give Your Life experience? Like what kind of experiences in your life could you offer people to be their lighthouse?
So I was just talking to my daughter about this the other day, and I said, you know, if she just turned 13, but I said, you know, if you ever need to get out of something, right? Like always use me as an excuse. Anytime you need to get out of something, when things don't feel right, always use me as an excuse. If you're ever somewhere that you just don't feel comfortable being there anymore, always call me. If I can't come get you, I'll find somebody who can come get you. But like my mom was always that person to me. I did always push limits and boundaries. But she would always bail me out, and then I would have to suffer the consequence.
Right.
But she would always bail me out. And it was like she always had my back. And I think, I ended up doing that for my staff. When I was running the center and I had a staff, a parent comes to me and says, oh, this teacher did this and I don't like it. Always the first thing I said was, let me have a conversation, right? Like I'm never going to side with a parent before my staff. I'm always going to have my staff's back. If there was a mistake made, then we'll figure it out. But I'm always going to have their back. And I want my kids' friends to know that too. Like, I got your back. I had a 12-year-old call me in the winter one morning and she said, hi, this is Cheyenne. She's a neighborhood kid, a friend of Elena's. And she said, all of my friends aren't answering. Can you take me to volleyball so I can make the bus to the game? And she didn't know Elena wasn't here with me that day. And I'm like, yep, what time does the bus leave? She's like, 8 o'clock. I'm like, great, it's 7:45. I'll be there in 5 minutes. And I threw on my clothes and I ran and got her. She goes to the back seat of the car and I'm like, you can sit in the front. I don't have my own kid. And I took her up to school. But it's like, you need to have those people in your life that you can just call and they'll try to make it work for you. And that somebody's always got your back. I think that's so sad when you hear Steve talk about like, I had nobody. And, to just know you have one person or a couple people that you can reach out to and they'll have your back. That is so important.
And I think we lose like the concept that when Steve talks about not having anybody, he didn't have anybody as a child. Like, I think that's, because I've watched so many videos and listened to him and he's got this manly voice and he is a man. And so when you read, like, you're like, oh gosh, this poor guy. But you forget that, like, I have a 13-year-old. Like, I can't imagine him being treated the way that Steve was. And to have no like firm grounding. It's not like he was raised and with all this great things and then his parents, died. Like he just, oh, so I just can't even wait to see him. Like, I feel like I'm like meeting Elvis Presley or going to even see Elvis Presley because I just give so much kudos to him. Like I love the fact that he just rose himself up. Like he can take all the credit. Yes, people helped him, people were something to him, but he recognized that in them. And I just think that's huge. Give items you no longer use. So this I kind of laughed at because if anybody knows me, I give everything away. I don't keep anything. I am the very least thing of a hoarder you can imagine. If I get something delivered to me from a store and it doesn't fit, I just give it away. I don't even return it. I can't stand to take things back. I'm not a seller. Like, people will say, oh my gosh, let me give you money for this stuff. Cause like I just gave 2 bags of clothes away for Jackson, of Jackson's. The kid is spoiled. He has all the, all the tennis shoes that, were barely worn and all of the name brands. And he has a friend that has there's 4 siblings and there's 3 boys and who couldn't use boy clothes. They're, the oldest brother is Jackson's age. So there's two other ones that are following in his footsteps. And so she's like, oh my gosh, let me give you money. Absolutely not. Like, I just want somebody to use these. I want these to know that they're not just giving corporate America another penny in their pocket and going to somebody that can really benefit from. So I know that clothes are minute things, but what kind of things do you have that someone else could benefit from? Or have you given a gift that, like give items you no longer use? The books. I don't know if you read in the book. She bought them for her sons, and when they were done, she said to put them in this box out on the porch, and they didn't want to, and they were like, why? And her response was, what do you have to use them again for? So, and those were the books that she gave him. Is there anything in your repertoire that you have shared, or have something that you could share and benefit from? Even if it was something as simple as clothes, that's fine too. Nobody has anything that they can share?
I'm a big
Or have
thrift, Sarah. I thrift all the time. My kids ask me where things are, and I'm like, that's been gone for a long time.
I always blame it on Jackson's dad. I'll be like, I don't know, it's probably at your dad's house, knowing full well I threw it away.
We have a place nearby in a town it's called Heron. Corey knows it well, but they have a thrift store that you can take anything to. I mean, literally anything. And it is run by individuals who had been, or who also go to a sheltered workshop. And what they do, I mean, with the state cuts, is that these individuals no longer get a lot of the programs. Such as like I'll go into a ball game or hosting a dance or whatever. So we will take everything there. And I'm talking Doug and I take truckloads of stuff there. And I don't know how we keep having more truckloads of stuff. But those individuals are so excited. They will come out, they'll unload it. They are so happy. And they've been taught to go through it, see what's good, what's not good. And they just tell you, bring anything. If it's not anything we can sell, then that's something for someone to, for them to make that decision, and they'll go pitch it. So if you don't want to toss it, let them do it. And we are in the process of another truckload. So to me, it makes me feel good to know that they get to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Give your goodness. What are different ways we can give back? In what ways do you give back? And I have a challenge. So I don't know if you read in the book where they were talking about writing letters. And the 5th grade little boy wrote him. Basically just, lifting him up. I really admire you. I love how you did this. We're different, but doesn't mean that I can't be inspired. And Steve didn't want to just write back. And then within the story, found his teacher. And I love how he said, he wanted to know about the child. And she said, why don't you come? I got an idea. Why don't you come talk to her school? And he said, that's one thing I love most about teachers. They are not afraid to ask for anything when it comes to their classrooms. And heck no, we're not. Because as a teacher of children at that age, I would love for, my school agers to be exposed to a man like Steve Pemberton and hear his story from him. I mean, oh my gosh. I might ask him when I see him in November. I'm just kidding, Corey. I'm not. I promise I'm not going to be tacky. But because he did that and he wrote the letter and he contacted the teacher and the teacher took it to the administrator, come to find out that the administrator was a teacher of his 20 years back. Like, wow. So I have a challenge for you to write a letter. write a letter to somebody who has been a lighthouse. Explain what the lighthouse is. As I was writing this, I already know who I'm going to write. I'm going to send a book. My Steve Pemberton is a teacher that I had in high school, and I never had her as a teacher. I never had her in class. I was always her teacher's aide. I babysat for her. I was very personable with her, and she's one that taught me how to work and save money when I wanted to do things that, my mom kind of growing up, she knew that like high school things weren't a big deal, and high school boyfriends 20 years from now were going to be like, who was that? So she didn't really give me what I needed as far as just a mom, like just somebody to understand where I was when I was a teenager. And that, yes, that high school boyfriend that I just broke up with, right now, my world is ending. Where this teacher, Bonnie is her name, she did that. She understood teenage life. I mean, and she was there. She was one that we all loved. So, I think because I've seen the way that she's related to kids, I think that's, why I can tend to do pretty well with children. So yeah, so she's my letter, and I'm going to explain why I'm writing her the letter, and you don't have to share who you're going to write the letter. I'm not going to check in with you to see if you wrote the letter. But I just encourage you to let your lighthouse know that they were your lighthouse. And I love that Claire got her way of living from her mom. Give from where you are with whatever you have. So I like that. You don't have to go over and beyond. You don't even have to go to the store. Do what you can right where you are. And I think that says a lot. The little link down here. I'm going to be honest with you. There's 2 links in here. One of them is a speech he gave at graduation, and another is an interview on the Today Show. I don't remember which one this is. So it's one of the 2. There's another one later on. There it is. So, and basically, I just kind of wanted to close. I wanted to, again, have a little story time. It's just a paragraph though, but I was sad when this book ended. I even got on and Googled books that contain motivating stories within the book because I did want it to end. Each day is an invitation to seek and to be a lighthouse. The light we desperately long to see in the world already exists in us. Wherever you are, however you are, strong and resolute, scared or scarred, uncertain yet still hopeful, perhaps in the midst of your own storm, you have the capacity to be a lighthouse. It is my great hope that you will connect to your own human lighthouses and offer them a further word of gratitude. Most importantly, I am equally hopeful that the future will find you standing on the lantern deck of your own lighthouse, gazing bravely out to sea, summoning the sailor towards safe harbor. As you do, you will be reflecting the wisdom that it is as timeless as the structure itself. Your life is a lighthouse. So I'm going to stop sharing this just so I can see you guys now. There's my friends. All right. I don't know why that was.
Okay, so they could pick it up?
Okay. All right. So that's the end of our book, guys. That's
All right, that's all I needed.
That's Steve Pemberton, cover to back. What do we think?
It's going to be cool to see him in November.
Michelle, are you coming?
I'm not sure. I'm hoping to. I haven't been to one yet, so this one would be a great one to come to.
Yep.
I encourage you to apply for grants if you need help with funding, getting yourself to the conference. Both the ELEA and ELCA's Ministry with Children have grants that would be applicable to help offset some of the costs to attend the conference. So please check those out. You'll find links on the website or in the newsletter. We're going to say
Corey,
something.
please, can you give a little bit of insight on that Ministry with Grants, Ministry with Children grant? I registered for it, and the dates say May 1st to June 30th to apply. But I got a message saying something about those are the wrong dates and it's not available. Do you know anything about that?
I'm gonna tap Janelle for that because this is a grant out of her office. So Janelle, any insight there? Sorry that you're still like finishing food in your mouth.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm technically on sabbatical, so I haven't been checking any of my emails or anything. So I'm not aware of that currently, but I will be back in the office in like 2 weeks, and it all runs through me anyway. So I don't know where that email came from. Maybe it was a misunderstanding while I'm gone, but I'll make sure to look into that.
Thank you. Yeah, I registered and then never heard anything. So I followed up and I'm like, just checking in, making sure. I thought maybe in cyberspace it didn't go through. And they're like, no, we see that you registered, but the dates on there are actually wrong. That grant is not available. I'm like, what?
Maybe can you forward that email to me?
Yeah.
Janelle at here, I'll put it in the chat box, and like I
Okay.
said, I'll take a look for sure when I get back in the office.
Thank you.
It was a little tricky putting it out while I was on sabbatical, but I wanted to get it out there. So
Yep. Thank you.